Greetings all, it's your friendly neighborhood advisor, Alex Quinn, and today I'm going to be talking about how to live for free through real estate. Option one is living in an apartment. So if you go to an apartment building and you find someone who needs a maintenance person, then sometimes they'll actually let maintenance managers live there for free, especially if they're having trouble finding them. And now, if the last couple of years, ever since the COVID pandemic first hit, it's actually been really hard times to find a good maintenance manager. So if you can prove that you are a good maintenance manager, they will let you live there for free in some cases if you're managing the properties, if you're maintaining them, and if you are willing to be on call. Those types of people can make a ton of money as well just being on call. You can make up to $200 an hour. It really depends on the place, the area, etc. But you can make a lot just while you're on call without even doing anything. So if they can get someone who's willing to live for free instead of taking that extra money, then they will let you live there for free instead of giving you the money ahead of time. Why would you take this if you make less money? Well, if you're looking for a live for free option before you have the money to do so. Otherwise, take the money. So that's option number one. Option number two is if you are ready to purchase a property, then there are two types of properties you can do this with. So number two is going to be just purchase a property that needs a lot of rehab. And then even if you don't have experience with maintenance, you can look up how to maintain properties just through Google, YouTube, etc. Those are the tools that lots of professional companies use when they're first starting up, and even ones that are already established sometimes do that as well to see, hey, how do I fix this new problem that we had, if they haven't encountered it before. So if you get a property, here's how you end up living for free. So you get the property at first, and then after you fix it up enough, you do what's called refinancing. Refinancing is pretty much you just get your mortgage all over again, and you're reapplying for the mortgage, but the property's worth more now because you fixed it up. And once you fix it up, also they gain value over time. This is called, can't believe I forgot what it's appreciation. Properties appreciate over time. I don't know what the current rate is, but when I was doing this kind of thing, it was about 10% per year. And if you imagine a $300,000 property, that's $30,000 a year. So if it's appreciating and you're building on it as well, then it ends up increasing in value. Also, the building on it increases the appreciation as well. So if it was 300,000 and you built on it and now it's worth 400,000, you get 40,000 a year instead. And then so now it's worth 440,000. So next year, instead of getting 40K, you're actually going to get 44K. So every year you get more as well, and then that also appreciates. So the compounded interest, that's what's called when you stack interest on interest, it's called compounded interest. That ends up leading to a wild amount of wealth that increases beyond inflation typically. So also, again, if you're fixing up the property, it'll increase even further than that. So if you go into the property and you refinance it, you get money back. The money that you get back is what you use to live for free. So instead of paying your bills all year, you refinance and you get that money out, and you use that money to pay the mortgage minimum balance, and then you refinance again after another year or two, or whenever you run out of funds. Every time you run out of funds, just refinance. You get money back as long as you keep improving the property and it keeps appreciating, and then use that money again to fund the payments, so you can live pretty much for free. And then if you do get a job, then actually it's free money, so you save up the money from the job to get more properties, do more rehabs, sell the property that you fixed up, and you're in business as a investor. So that's another way that you can live for free. Option number three is you can just get a duplex. If you get a duplex in a lot of areas, you can rent out you can live in one side while renting out the other side. And the rent of the other side, I've seen a lot of people do this. Again, it depends on your area. So check your area before following this advice in particular. But in a lot of areas, if you rent out one side of a duplex, the rent ends up going for a similar amount to what the costs are for you to keep the duplex up and running. So you, again, get to live for free in one side of the duplex. They're pretty amazing options. Some tips that I have for people who try these routes, all of these are based mostly on maintenance and real estate knowledge. So one for figuring out whether or not you can live in a duplex for free or what, etc. You want to use tools online to determine the estimated rent. You can use Zillow. Zillow is laughably inaccurate for people that are in business doing this, like myself. However, it is a good guideline if you don't have anything else to go off of, because while it is inaccurate, it is still going to be in the right ballpark for someone who doesn't need to have the numbers so accurate to calculate their maintenance costs, paying the labor for their business, the products, fixing and flipping. If you're trying to make like $1 million a year, etc., you do need to be a bit more precise. You have a lot of other things kind of going around and moving, and you have to compare it to a bunch of other properties. But if you're just someone who's looking to purchase one property that's close to your area, and you just want to see if it seems like it's going to work, just go off of Zillow, look at that at first until you can figure out better ways to go about it, more accurate ways to go about it. You also can figure out what people are paying in the area. You can knock on a couple of doors, etc. There's other options, other online websites that can tell you the average in the area of what people are typically paying for rent versus what the typical mortgage is. And especially if you can find a property that does need to be fixed up, then it weighs in your favor even more, because it'll be a cheaper property that will still pull in the right amount of money. Once it's fixed up, you can live in the side that needs fixing up while you rent out the side that doesn't need fixing up, and you can just live with the problems yourself, or you can look to fix them up, or when you have the money, you can pay for them to be fixed up. But to evaluate whether or not the cost will meet the mortgage, you can find the estimated mortgage more accurately by looking at the cost of the property and going to a mortgage calculator to estimate what those costs will be. And then that will change based on how much money you have available, your credit score, etc. Those all can be calculated online. I think Google even has a calculator. Sometimes these calculators are called amortization calculators, although it doesn't need to be an amortization calculator. Basically, an amortization calculator tells you every year what the breakdown is, how much money you still owe, how much money you've paid, what the interest is, etc. And you don't need the year by year breakdown. But an amortization calculator will give you the top of the line simple numbers that you do need. And so looking for that will definitely have what you need in most cases, but you don't need an amortization calculator. Anyway, so the calculator will tell you about what your bills are going to be, and then add on what utilities are. If you are living in the area and paying utilities already, use that as a guide and then just increase it by a little bit. They don't go up by that much. Usually you have to pay some utilities even if you're not using them. Gas is not going to be much different. Electricity might be a little more. You also, if that ends up going outside of the bounds of what you estimated, you can use a little less air conditioning. Air conditioners use the most electricity and typically make a difference of a couple $100s. So not using an air conditioner, even in Minnesota where it's cold, and snows like half the year, not literally, but sometimes, air conditioning is still the biggest difference in utilities typically. So you can use that, or you also can reach out to utility companies to get some of that information as well, to see a breakdown of your home compared to nearby homes. Even if you're in an apartment, sometimes they will also give you breakdowns of that as well, what a typical person pays in that utility in your area compared to what you're paying, and that can give you a general idea. There's also other online I just remembered there's other online calculators that give you all of that in a breakdown. If you look into, I believe Bigger Pockets has a calculator, or they recommend a particular one, so maybe look up the Bigger Pockets cost calculator or utility calculator or purchase calculator, and that will lead you in the right direction to something that I've used in the past that I found to be accurate enough for me to make the decision. But honestly, if it's off by a couple $100, who cares? We're talking about living for free here. So if it's off by a little bit, then you can figure it out how to get that extra money by picking up a job on the side, or by doing some maintenance on the property, or doing something else to weigh things more heavily in your favor. An option I didn't mention that I wasn't planning on speaking of, but it might make a bit might fit now that I've mentioned all of these options, is getting an apartment building. Even if you don't have good credit or enough savings, there are options. If you find a good enough deal and you find the right lender, then some will actually let you get the property even if you don't have the the necessary things you need, because apartment buildings often run themselves. They often come with their own maintenance team, etc. And so if their books look like it pulls in plenty of money, and you are in a position where you're willing to take it on, then they will usually sign on, because it's unusual for people to fail once they get that. You're not really buying a job, you're actually buying a business technically, and it will just generate income. So if it looks like it's going to generate enough income for you to live off of, then that might not be enough for an investor to go into it, but it would be enough. It might be enough for you to make the lenders happy and for you to live off of. So you might say, yeah, awesome, $2,000 a month. Whereas a typical investor looking at these will be looking for the top options, or ones that are going to help grow their business, where they have bigger needs than that. They need to afford the the labor products, etc. They need to afford a lot more than that, so they might glaze over it, while you might be able to jump on that. So that's an option as well. But you need to look into lenders and the options there, and find one that will finance you without scamming you. A big key to that is don't trust anyone with a Gmail, even if they seem legitimate. So, all right. Well, thanks so much. I hope this helps somebody out there. Have a great day.